Hi, everyone. I am Emily. I am 22 years old. And before I even get into the story, I want to make it clear that I do not live with my dad anymore. My parents divorced when I was 14, and at that time, I mostly lived with my mom, but I always maintained a good relationship with my dad. I was always known as the responsible one in the family. When I got my first job at 16, I started contributing to household bills without being asked. I cooked dinner, babysat my little cousins, and generally stepped up in any way I could because I knew my mom was struggling financially. I never complained because I loved her and understood how hard things were. My dad, in contrast, was always the more relaxed parent, the fun one who wanted me to enjoy myself when I was with him, but I respected him and appreciated that he was there. Things changed dramatically when my dad married Jennifer last year. She is 36, and she came into the marriage with two children from her previous relationship, Olivia, who is 9, and Jacob, who is 6. At first, I wanted to be open minded. I thought it would be nice for my dad to have a partner again and for him to feel happy. I even brought gifts for Olivia and Jacob when I first met them, just to show goodwill. But from almost the very beginning, Jennifer seemed to view me less as my father's daughter and more as some kind of built in nanny she could rely on. It started small. She would make little comments in this sugary voice like, "Emily, you are so mature. Could you watch the kids for a bit while I run an errand?" At first, I agreed once or twice because I thought it was a normal request and I wanted to be polite, but those bits turned into entire evenings where I found myself stuck babysitting while she went out for dinners or shopping trips. Then she began asking me to pick Olivia and Jacob up from school, saying that traffic was unbearable around that time of day. She would suggest that I keep snacks and juice boxes in my car for them, as if it was just assumed I was now their chauffeur. One incident stands out in particular. I was at work on my lunch break, and I got a text from Jennifer saying that I needed to pick up her kids from school because she had a hair appointment. I replied that I could not because I was literally at my job, and she immediately blew up at me, accusing me of being selfish and not caring about family. The irony is that I do not even live with them. I rent a small apartment about 20 minutes away. I pay my own rent, my own bills, and I am putting myself through community college while working a retail job. Every cent is accounted for in my budget, and I do not have the extra money for gas to drive kids around town just because their mother wants her hair done. Meanwhile, Jennifer is a stay at home wife. She likes to say that raising kids is a full time job, but from what I have seen, it looks more like she expects everyone else to handle the work. She lounges around, scrolls on her phone, and then hands off responsibility the moment it becomes inconvenient. The breaking point came when she suggested that I should pick up Olivia and Jacob every single morning, feed them breakfast, and drive them to school. I told her that I could not because I sometimes work early shifts, and she looked at me as if I had just said something horrible. She told me that I was basically their older sister now, so I should help. That was when I finally snapped. I told her, "I am not your daughter, and your kids are your responsibility, not mine." She stared at me in shock, went quiet for a second, and then burst into tears. Through sobs, she accused me of being cruel and of not understanding how hard motherhood is. When my dad came home later, she must have told him her version of the story because he confronted me. He said I should have been more understanding and tried to explain that family means stepping up. I asked him directly why it was my responsibility to take care of children who are not mine, and he could not give me an answer. Money makes everything more complicated. My dad has always been decent with finances, but since marrying Jennifer, he is footing the bill for absolutely everything. She does not work, her kids go to private school, which he pays for, and somehow he even pays child support to her ex because of the arrangement they made in their divorce. It is like his entire paycheck goes into supporting Jennifer and her kids, while she contributes nothing. At one point, she even had the nerve to suggest that I move back in with them. She framed it as a way for me to save money and help out more, but I knew exactly what that meant: free live-in babysitter. I would lose my independence, be stuck watching kids every day, and have no escape. I refused immediately. After our confrontation, Jennifer went on Facebook and made a cryptic post about ungrateful children who do not respect blended families. Asmar, her relatives, swarmed the comments with messages like, "You deserve better, Jen," and "Those kids will thank you one day." I did not respond, but I know full well that her post was aimed at me. So now I am left wondering if I really was too harsh. I did not ask for this situation, and I have my own life to manage. I am stretched thin with school, work, and bills, and I cannot be responsible for raising two children who are not mine. Still, Jennifer and now even my dad seem to think I should sacrifice my time, my energy, and my limited resources to make their lives easier. So, Ada for telling my dad's new wife that I am not her daughter and her kids are her problem. Wow, this blew up way more than I ever expected. I honestly thought people would tell me I was being cold or unkind, but instead, I've had so many people say I was right to draw a line. It feels validating because for the longest time, I thought I was the only one seeing through Jennifer's manipulations. To clear up some of the common questions people had, yes, Jennifer is fully capable of driving her own kids. She has a license, she has a car, and she absolutely does drive when it suits her. She claims she gets anxious in traffic, but somehow that anxiety never appears when she wants to go to the mall, the salon, or out to lunch with her friends. When it comes to school drop-offs or pickups, suddenly she acts as if she's too fragile to handle it and expects me to rearrange my life. And, yes, my dad knows what she's doing. He's not oblivious. He has seen the way she pawns responsibility off on me, but my dad has always hated conflict. He would rather keep the peace and pretend everything is fine instead of confronting her directly. When I push back, he looks uncomfortable and tells me to try to be more understanding, but he never actually addresses the root of the problem. That avoidance has only made Jennifer bolder because she knows he won't stop her. The most shocking development came just a few days ago. Jennifer decided to ambush me at my own apartment. I had just gotten home from work and was exhausted. I was looking forward to microwaving some leftovers and collapsing on the couch when I heard a knock on the door. When I opened it, there was Jennifer standing there with Olivia and Jacob sitting in the back seat of her SUV. She had this fake, cheerful smile plastered on her face, and before I could even ask what she was doing, she launched into an explanation about how she needed me to watch them just for 2 hours. I immediately told her no because I was drained and I had assignments to finish for school. Instead of listening, she started ushering the kids out of the car as if it was already settled. I repeated that I could not take them, but she ignored me completely. I stood in the doorway saying, "Jennifer, no, I am not doing this." But she brushed it off as if I were joking. She gave the kids quick hugs, then got back in her SUV and literally drove off while I was still protesting. I was left standing there with Olivia and Jacob awkwardly looking at me while their mother sped away from my parking lot. It felt surreal, like something out of a bad sitcom, except this was my actual life, and I was being cornered into babysitting without consent. I knew immediately that if I gave in this time, it would never stop. So I told the kids to wait inside while I called my dad. When he picked up, I told him bluntly that he needed to come get his wife's kids right away, or I would have no choice but to call CPS for child abandonment. I made it clear I was not bluffing. Leaving children on someone's doorstep without their agreement is not babysitting. It is abandonment. And I was not going to be manipulated into silently tolerating it. My dad arrived within 30 minutes. He looked embarrassed, exhausted, and older than I remember him looking. He did not try to argue with me, and he did not make excuses. He just quietly gathered Olivia and Jacob, thanked me without meeting my eyes, and left. It was the most uncomfortable interaction I've ever had with him, but at least he handled it quickly. Later that evening, I got a text from Jennifer. Instead of apologizing, she accused me of being evil. Her exact words were, "You're evil. I just wanted some me time." As if her desire for relaxation somehow justified dumping her kids on me against my will. I felt my blood boil reading that message. I took a screenshot immediately because I realized that evidence might come in handy one day if this escalates further. I screenshotted it and kept it. So things didn't just escalate, they went out nuclear in the following weeks. After my mom called my dad, the atmosphere shifted completely. Jennifer clearly realized my mom was not someone she could steamroll, and she started making passive-aggressive comments every time I was around. Suddenly, everything I did was disrespectful. If I declined to watch the kids, She'd mutter under her breath about how young people don't understand sacrifice. If I stayed quiet during dinner, she'd accuse me of judging her parenting. It was exhausting. My dad, to his credit, started treading lightly. I could tell he knew Jennifer was crossing a line, but he was caught between his wife and his daughter. He tried to play peacemaker, saying things like, "We just need to find balance," but balance in this house basically meant I give up my time, money, and sanity, so Jennifer doesn't have to parent. I didn't buy it, and my mom certainly didn't. Then came the school supplies incident. After I told Jennifer off, she doubled down and started spinning a narrative that I was selfish and didn't want to be part of the family. She even told my dad that I was poisoned by my mom, which is rich considering she's the one trying to dictate how I spend my money and time. My dad stayed quiet, which was honestly worse than him siding with her, because it showed me he wasn't going to defend me when it mattered. The fallout from that was bigger than I expected. Jennifer's ex-husband, Mike, apparently caught wind that she was relying on me like a free nanny. That man wasted no time. He filed for increased custody and requested a review of their parenting arrangement, citing her inability to maintain stable care without outside reliance. I only know this because Jennifer went on a tirade about how her vindictive ex was trying to ruin her life. She blamed me, naturally, because apparently being the unwilling babysitter means I'm also the reason her ex thinks she's an unfit parent. She started trying to guilt trip me with these bizarre lectures. At one point, she said, "If you loved your siblings, you'd help more." I had to laugh because, first of all, they're not my siblings, they're her kids. And second, love doesn't mean bankrupting myself to cover crayons and notebooks. But what really got under her skin was when I finally told her point blank that I wasn't part of her custody battle, and the fact that her ex even suspected she couldn't handle parenting said more about her than about me. That conversation ended with her storming off and slamming doors like she was the teenager in the house, not me. The dynamic between me and the kids got weird after that. Olivia and Jacob are sweet kids, but they're not blind. They started noticing the tension and would ask me things like, "Why don't you want to hang out with us?" Which broke my heart because I don't blame them for their mom's behavior. I told them gently that I was busy with school and work, which is true, but the bigger truth is that every time I spent time with them, Jennifer treated it like she had a license to dump more responsibility on me. I had to put up walls for my own sanity, even though it hurt. Meanwhile, my mom has been a rock. She told me flat out that if Jennifer escalated again, we could consult a lawyer about setting boundaries legally, especially since I'm an adult and Jennifer has no authority over me. My mom even offered to help cover the cost if it came to that. I don't think it will go that far, but knowing my mom has my back makes it easier to deal with the daily nonsense. The funniest part in all of this is how Jennifer tries to rewrite reality. She started telling extended family that I refused to contribute to the household, as if a college student working part-time should be paying for her children. My aunt even called me asking if it was true, and when I explained, she was horrified and said, "No wonder your mom is furious." So Jennifer's smear campaign backfired spectacularly because people realized how absurd it was. And then there was Mike. After he filed for more custody, he texted me personally. That threw me off, but his message was polite and weirdly grateful. He said he appreciated that I'd stepped in for his kids when their mom can't. I immediately clarified that I hadn't agreed to anything, and that Jennifer had been dumping the kids on me without my consent. He responded almost instantly with, "I figured." He wasn't surprised. Final update, and it is absolutely wild. I never thought things would spiral this far, but they did, and the ending is something I could not have predicted when this all started. My dad and Jennifer are separated. Yes, separated. It turns out there was much more going on behind the scenes than any of us realized. Apparently, Jennifer had been draining my dad's accounts for months. She was lying about expenses, covering up purchases, and quietly building up debt that he did not even know existed. He told me later that he had started noticing things that did not add up. Charges he did not recognize, cash withdrawals that were unexplained, bills arriving that should not have been there. At first, he gave her the benefit of the doubt because my dad has always been the kind of man who wants to trust the people closest to him, but the inconsistencies kept piling up until he finally confronted her directly. When he did, Jennifer did not apologize or even try to explain. Instead, she exploded. She accused him of betraying her, of being ungrateful for everything she had done. And then, in a twist that was almost laughable, she said that I was the real problem. She blamed me for ruining their marriage, claiming that if he had made me step up and help more, their household would have been smoother, their finances less strained, and her life easier. Hearing that was like a punch in the gut, not because I felt guilty, but because it revealed exactly how she had viewed me from the start. I was never seen as part of her family. I was never considered a daughter or a loved one. I was only ever free labor in her eyes. My dad told me that realization broke something inside him. He said he could handle the lies about money, as painful as they were, but the moment he understood that Jennifer had no respect for me, that she had been manipulating both of us, he knew the marriage was over. He admitted he should have stepped up sooner, that he should have protected me more, and he apologized sincerely. It was not a quick throwaway apology, but one of those moments where you can tell a person has been forced to face the truth about themselves and regrets not acting earlier. Jennifer packed up her things within the week. She took Olivia and Jacob and moved in with her sister, leaving behind a house that suddenly felt quieter and lighter without her constant demands. My dad has already filed for divorce. He is embarrassed and angry, but also oddly relieved. He said he feels like he has been walking around with a weight strapped to his shoulders and only now realized how heavy it had become. What surprised me the most was when he told me he admired how I had stood my ground. He admitted that if I had not resisted her manipulation so fiercely, he might never have seen the full extent of her behavior. By refusing to play along, I forced the cracks in their relationship to surface. He said that my boundaries gave him the clarity he had been missing, and that without them, he might have been stuck in that marriage for years. Hearing that felt strange. For so long, I worried I was being selfish or harsh, but it turns out I was doing exactly what needed to be done. Looking back now, I no longer question myself. At first, I wondered if I had gone too far by telling Jennifer her kids were not my responsibility. I worried I had been cruel. But after everything that unfolded, I am glad I stood up for myself. Those children are not my responsibility. I did not choose to bring them into the world. Jennifer tried to force me into a role I did not consent to, and in the end, she learned the hard way that manipulation has consequences. My dad is better off without her. I am better off having stood firm. And Jennifer, well, she will have to live with the results of her own actions. So, was I the asshole? I think the answer is clear now. And if you made it all the way to the end of this saga, thank you for sticking with me through the chaos. Your support has meant more than I can say. If you enjoyed following along, feel free to like, comment, or even subscribe. I would love to hear your thoughts and keep sharing stories with you.